Good morning. Shabbat Shalom. Greetings to the 12 tribes scattered into the four corners of the earth. Greetings also to those of the grafted in Gentiles to the 12 tribes that are grafted in through the blood and righteousness of the Hebrew Messiah, the line of the tribe of Judah, the way, Mashiach, Yahushua. Greetings. Blessings upon those that are working in the healthcare field, trying to save lives, and those also that pick up garbage to keep our places clean, and those that make deliveries for our convenience. Double blessings on those trying to help and deliver and rescue and preserve men and women, boys and girls, children that are forgotten, that are snatched. Also adults and teenagers that have been placed into sex slavery and human trafficking, that are victims of prostitution, that are victims of child prostitution, that are victims of pornography and victims of child pornography, that are victims also of those that molest young people and those that are into pedophilia. Blessings upon the ones trying to rescue these, and double curses on those that perform, that are support, that go after these heinous and evil acts. Also, finally, blessings upon the homeless. 600,000 men, women, and children and families in the United States alone without a roof over their head today, and millions around the world in worse conditions. May the Most High bless them, for theirs is the kingdom, and blessings upon those also who are trying to help. Also, blessings and greetings, Isha. Blessings and greetings, righteous in the way, Brother Williams, Brother Mark, Brother Kelly. Blessings and greetings upon you guys. And Shabbat Shalom, whether it's morning or whether it's evening, depending on where you are in the world. Blessings upon you. We have been studying Hosea. Hosea, of course, the prophet of the northern tribes of Israel, also showing us the patterns, the parallels, the way in which Israel was going into captivity. And also eventually he's going to show us, and he has already shown us in chapter 3, how Israel is going to be delivered from the captivity. And so as we see these things, as Israelites, we see them not only in a historical context, we also see them as warnings to us, showing us who we are, how we got here, why we are here, and how we're going to leave this situation that we're in. Many people are looking for government help. They're looking to the big governments of the earth, particularly the United States, particularly the most developed nation. They're looking for these governments to help them in their oppression that they are in, not understanding that as the Israelite people of old could not get help from Egypt, could not get help from other nations when the Most High determined their captivity, as we are going to be delivered. Only the Most High can deliver us. We cannot be delivered by man, okay? Which is why, for example, the Ashkenazi kingdom in the state of Israel is going to be doomed, because that was set up by man. It was set up by the United Nations, led by the United States of America, who is the lamb-like beast of Revelation chapter 13. Therefore, when they are setting something up, it is doomed to be destroyed. For all the nations of this earth are going to be destroyed, and only a remnant is going to be brought forth. And we know that these things, according to the scriptures, are going to happen very shortly. Within the next few years, we're going to see all of these things. And when you actually step back and look on recent history, we're not even talking about long-term history in terms of what we're going to study in Hosea today, but in recent history, you can see over the last, in your lifetime, if you're 60 years old like me, or 70 or 80 or even younger, you can say very well, times were better before and they're getting worse now. Everybody understands that. Times are always getting worse. Now, the media will have you believe times are better. They will have you believe everybody's doing better than they used to do. But the media is a mind control operation. Those of us in the truth by the Spirit of the Father understand this. The media of man is set up by Satan, controlled by people who are controlled by Satan to deceive us. Malcolm X once put it this way. He said this before media was what it is now. He spoke this in 1964-65. And what Malcolm X said, he said, when there's a war, he said the first thing the people that are trying to conquer do is take over the media and then make a declaration that the war is over. And they do this so that the people that are fighting will believe the war is over and surrender. Because what? They heard it on the media. The war is over. And he also said, don't believe them because they're always telling you how free you are and how good your situation is. When on the ground, you know different. See? And so the media has gotten more deceptive, more powerful, more influential, and is continuing, and of course, than it's ever been in history. We're in such a media situation now that you have a thing called what? Social media. You have social media. And social media, as we know, is a very powerful platform. People have gotten well-known, famous, or infamous on social media. Okay? And so we must understand the power of these things and understand as a foundational base, they're trying to deceive you. It's a brainwashing operation. It's a mass brainwashing operation. Okay? And so as we're understanding this, we would then focus on the word of the Most High. See, this is the thing, brethren. This book tells you the real. It tells you what exactly is going on. It tells you why it's going on. It tells you the plans of both the enemies and the Most High. It tells you all of that. Okay? Problem is, of course, as we always say, most people have not read the book. They have not read it. And the people that speak the loudest are the people that have only read parts of it. Okay, the people with the most opinions are people that have only read parts of the book. The people that speak the loudest about it are the people that have never read it. And that's all good. You know why? Because those of us that will read it, first of all, because we are decided to read it, to give honor and glory to the Creator, He's going to bless us with knowledge to understand what's going on. And everything he is showing us will go opposite of what the media is showing us. That is a sign in and of itself. Okay? And we can look behind the lies and see the truth. For example, when they're talking about global warming and you're seeing flooding and you're seeing fires, especially in the western part of the United States, and you're seeing these powerful, intense hurricanes and the destructive power coming with them, they'll tell you it's global warming. They'll tell you it's climate change. They'll tell you we don't have a few years before we could stop this. Otherwise, it'll wipe us out. But we know it's the beginning of the judgments of the Most High. You see what I'm saying? So they won't say that, but we can see it because the Bible talks about it. The Bible tells us about it. Okay? We can understand that. Right? The media will tell you all of these things are going on in the streets with police and defund the police or don't defund the police and all white juries and all of these things. But we know because the Bible shows us who the 12 tribes are and what would happen to them in their enemies' lands. We know this from the word of the Most High. Okay? Brother Williams asked a question, are we in the 4th seal? No, we're in the 6th seal right now. We're in the 6th seal. 4th seal been gone. We're in the 6th seal right now. That's where we are. Look at the 6th church, the 6th trumpet, and the 6th seal. I keep telling y'all, they go together. Read them together, and you'll see this is where we are right now. We're in the development of the 144,000. That's in the 6th church, the 6th seal, and the 6th trumpet. Look at that. Study it so you'll know where you're at. Okay. And each seal has elements of the previous seals. That's another thing, people. Each seal, each church, each trumpet has elements of the seals, the churches, and the trumpets that came before it. Okay. Yeah. So look at those things. And I'm glad you brought that up because I really want people to do that. Please study these things and understand the book of Revelation. Oh, was it about the weather? Oh, I see what you're saying. It was about the weather. Not necessarily. No. The 4th one is the pale horse, and the 4th one is Thyatira, and the 4th one is the the darkness of sun, the moon, and stars. I guess that's why you would bring that up. But that's all talking about the rise and power of the Roman Catholic Church. That's all that's talking about. And it said the one that rode upon him was death. Right? Remember that? Rode upon that one, the horseman that rode upon that horse was pale. It was death. That was the rise of Rome. That's Thyatira, Jezebel. If you look at the fourth church, that's Thyatira and Jezebel. And that's what he said. That's the one he said, I'm going to break in pieces, because that's the one that's ruling the earth right now. That's the children of Yafet's religion rising. Started with the third one under Balaam with Pergamos, and then turned into Rome. Balaam and Pergamos, that has to do with Constantine. And then that wasn't the established institution until you get to the fourth church, right? And so that's what you got right there. And the pale horse is death, because that's what that brings. Remember, it's the abomination that causes desolation. Remember that? It's the abomination that causes desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet. That's what we're dealing with. Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's the rise of it right there. And see what I mean when I say it started there, but it didn't finish there. It continues all the way through the seventh one. So you have all elements of all the previous ones coming into each church, each seal, each trumpet. Sorry, each trumpet. So you have the elements. Now the sixth one, though, look at the sixth trumpet. And remember now, the sixth trumpet starts in Revelation 9 and goes all the way through to Revelation, the end of Revelation 11. And so you need to look at all of that as the sixth trumpet, and then understand the elements, the things that are happening there. And even if you don't quite understand, just look at what it says and compare it to Philadelphia, which is the sixth church, and compare it to the sixth seal, where this heavens departed as a scroll. And then you see the development of the 144,000, because it starts in chapter 6, verse 12, and goes all the way into chapter 7. So you know that in the sixth church, in the sixth seal, in the sixth trumpet, the 144,000 are there. That's where we are. That's where we are right now. Okay, so the end, just for a short time, very short time, is the seventh of everything. That's why it says the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven, the space of half an hour. That's the end right there. So you compare all your sevens and you see what's going on. Oh, that's a good question. Sister Wade asked, how do we know it was talking about the Roman Catholic Church? Okay, before I answer her question, I'm going to ask y'all back. Anybody in the chat can answer her question. How do we know that the fourth church is the Roman Catholic Church? How do we know that the fourth seal is dealing with that? How do we know that the fourth trumpet is dealing with that? That's an excellent question. How do we know that? Okay, so when you're doing Bible study, how do you find out what the Bible is saying? How do you find out what the Bible is saying? When you're doing a Bible study, what do you do when you want to find out? So especially you're looking in the book of Revelation, right? So let me ask a question. Yes, thank you, Brother Han. You do have to read it. Absolutely. You do have to study Daniel. That's right. And along with Daniel, you have to study all the prophets. So let's start with this foundation. And that's what I always bring up. So we're going to go into this today, because y'all asking this question, because we were going to go into Hosea, but y'all going to cause me to go into Revelation today, because y'all asking these Revelation style questions. Y'all going to cause me to go into Revelation. Maybe the Father's leading us that way today. All right, I'll go with it. So let's start with a basic foundation first. Okay, let's start with a basic foundation first. Revelation chapter 1 and verse 1. See, you need to really understand the foundation before you go into the deepness of the book. Okay, right? Does that make sense to y'all? Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you really need to start with the foundation first. And Revelation chapter 1 sets the tone for the rest of the book. All right, y'all got me so far? So Revelation chapter 1 sets the tone. So now, Sister Wade, I'm not forgetting her question, because her question is, how do we know that the fourth church, the fourth seal, the fourth trumpet is the Roman Catholic Church? How do we know that? That's an excellent question. So what we want to do is look at Revelation chapter 1 and set the foundation for what the rest of the book is going to tell us. All right, so y'all turn, the Most High Spirit done touched y'all and touched me, and he turned this. I'm gonna have to change the title of this one, because he turning this into a Revelation study today. Praise the Most High. All right, let's do it then. All right, so let's start at Revelation chapter 1 and verse 1. Revelation chapter 1 and verse 1. It starts off like this. The revelation of Messiah Yahushua, which y'all know it says Jesus Christ there, which Yah, and I cannot call him God because that is not his name, which Yah gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John. Right? Let's stop there. Now, read this very carefully. Thank you, Brother William. Read this very carefully. So this book is called the Revelation of the Messiah, right? It's a revealing of the Messiah, right? So this book is going to reveal things to us about the Messiah. Y'all got that part, right? Everybody cool? Okay, good. So now he says this revealing of the Messiah is not for everybody. He said to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. So now you must understand this revelation of the Messiah is not for everybody. It's not given to everybody to understand it. It's given for the servants of the Messiah and the servants of Yah, because it says that this is a revelation of the Messiah that his Father gave him. Now, who are the servants of the Father? Who are the servants of the Messiah? Who are his servants? That's the first thing you need to understand, because if you don't understand that, then you're reading this book and you don't know if this is for you or not. Because only his servants are going to understand it. Does that make sense? Only his servants are going to understand it. A lot of people are going to teach it, but only his servants are going to. All right. So now, for you to understand this, you must understand that the servants of Yah are the Israelite people. He has only chosen Israel. Let's go through those scriptures while we're doing this, right? Let's go through the scriptures now. I guess we preempted Hosea today, but it's all good. Let's go through the scriptures. First, let's go through the ones we know, right? Let's start at Zechariah, going back to Zechariah. I could start in Romans, actually. But let's go to Zechariah for now, because I want y'all to get used to going back into the Old Testament, because Revelation, I'm giving you right now up front, Revelation takes place in the Old Testament. You need to understand that part. Okay, even though it's in the so-called New Testament, everything goes back to the Old Testament. Okay, so now let's look at Zechariah chapter 2. Zechariah chapter 2, beginning at verse 1. Zechariah 2, beginning at verse 1 and going down to verse 8. Zechariah chapter 2, from verse 1 to verse 8. Who are the servants of the Most High Yah, for which he gave the revelation of his Son, Messiah? And I lifted up my eyes again and looked, and behold, a man with a measuring line in his hand. Then said I, whither goest thou? And he said unto me, to measure Jerusalem, to see what is the breadth thereof, and what is the length thereof. And behold, the angel that talked with me went forth, and another angel went out to meet him, and said unto him, run, speak to this young man, saying, Jerusalem shall be inhabited as towns without walls, for the multitude of men and cattle therein. For I, said Yahweh, will be unto her a wall of fire around about, and will be the glory in the midst of her. Ho, come forth and flee from the land of the north, saith the Most High Yahweh. For I have spread you abroad as the four winds of heaven, saith Yahweh. Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwellest with the daughter of Babylon. For thus saith Yahweh of hosts, after the glory hath he sent me unto the nations which spoiled you. And for he that toucheth you touches the apple of his eye. You getting that so far? Wait, we in Zechariah, so let's pick up another one in Zechariah. Let's pick up another one. Zechariah chapter 14. Zechariah chapter 14. Going to start Zechariah chapter 14, and let's see. I'm gonna all right. There's a lot here. I'm gonna start with the city, right? We're talking about the city of the New Jerusalem. So let's start from verse 7. I'm gonna read from verse 7 of Zechariah 14, and I'm gonna go down to verse 14, from 7 to 14. Okay. Actually, yeah. I'm gonna go down from 7 to 16. Okay. We're reading a lot today. Y'all asked for it, so y'all gonna get it. Okay, you ready? All right, let's go. Zechariah 14 from verse 7 to 16. But it shall be one day which shall be known to Yahweh, not day nor night. But it shall come to pass that at evening time it shall be light. That goes to Revelation 21. And it shall be in that day that living waters shall go out from Jerusalem, half of them toward the former sea, and half toward the hinder sea. In summer and in winter it shall be. And Yahweh shall be king over all the earth. And in that day there shall be one Yahweh, and his name one. All the land shall be turned as the plain from Geba to Rimmon, south of Jerusalem. It shall be lifted up and inhabited in her place, from Benjamin's gate unto the place of the first gate, unto the corner gate, and from the tower of Hananiel unto the king's wine presses, and men shall dwell in it. And there shall be no more utter destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. And this shall be the plague wherewith Yahweh will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their mouth shall consume away in their mouth, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. And it shall come to pass in that day that a great tumult from Yahweh shall be among them, and they shall lay hold everyone on the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. And Judah also shall fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the heathen round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver and apparel in great abundance. And so shall the plague of the horse and of the mule and of the camel and of the ass and of all the beasts shall be in these tents as this plague. And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all nations, that's the remnant of the nation, which came against Jerusalem, shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, Yahweh of hosts, and to keep the feast of the tabernacle. So who are his servants? Who are the servants? We only done went to Zechariah. We know I got to give you more than one witness. But who are his servants? Who are you seeing? That obviously is Israel. Obviously is Israel. Wait a minute. And of course, we know we got to stop at Amos. You know we got to stop at Amos. So let's see. Amos. Let's see. I'm going to start in Amos chapter 9. Amos chapter 9 from verse 7. From verse 7 down to verse 12. Amos chapter 9 from verse 7. Actually, I got to read more than that. I'm going to read down to verse 14. Amos chapter 9 from verse 7 to verse 14. Here we go. Who are the servants? We got to establish this solid before we go into the book of Revelation. You got to solidly understand this, because you got all kind of heathen, all kind of denominations trying to teach Revelation. And you can know right now, none of them know what they're talking about, because only the servants are going to know. Okay? Right? So we got to establish thoroughly. Somebody asks you, well, who are the servants? They're going to tell you they're human man-made definitions, but you got to come from the word of the Most High. So let's look at it. Amos chapter 9, beginning at verse 7. Are ye not as the children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel, saith Yahweh? Have not I brought up Israel out of the land of Egypt, and the Philistines from Caphtor, and the Syrians from Kir? Behold, the eyes of the Most High Yahweh are upon the sinful kingdom, and I will destroy it from off the face of the earth, saving I will not utterly destroy the house of Jacob, saith Yahweh. For lo, I will command, and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations. Like as corn is sifted in the sieve, yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth. All the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, which say the evil shall not overtake nor prevent us. In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and the house of the close up the breaches thereof, and I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in days of old, that they may possess the remnant of Edom, and of all the heathen which are called by my name, saith Yahweh, that doeth this. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that the plower shall overtake the reaper, and the treader of grapes him that soweth seed, and the mountain shall drop sweet wine, and all the hills shall melt. And I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel, and they shall build the waste cities and inhabit them, and shall plant vineyards and drink the wine thereof, and they shall also make gardens and eat the fruit of them. So who are the servants? Y'all got it yet? Wait, let me give you some more witnesses. Because people going to give you all kind of stuff. So you got to have 2 or 3 witnesses. I would suggest at least 3 in this particular case, because most people don't believe that only Israel, the bloodline, is the servant. Most people don't believe that. They're looking at these Ashkenazis. They don't even know Messiah came yet. Okay, so anyway, let's look. Amos chapter 3, beginning at verse 1 and going to verse 2 and down to verse 7. Very important. 1, 2, and 7. Are you ready? Very important. Hear this word Yahweh has spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family, which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, you only, Israel, you only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquities. Verse 7. Surely the Most High Yahweh will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret to his servants, the prophets. He's only showing himself to Israel, and he's only revealing his secrets to the prophets of Israel, who are his servants, the prophets of Israel, the 12 tribes. Y'all got that? Everybody see that? Am I making anything up, or did we get this from the word? You're catching that, right? We getting this from the word, correct? Okay. I got more in the Old Testament. Let me give you one more because they're so rich. Let me give you one more in Psalms. I'm giving y'all because people going to question you. See, I call myself a teacher because I believe the Most High has brought me to teach the Israelites his truth. But this is what I'm teaching for the glory of y'all and for some of y'all to learn and become teachers. Do you understand? Not disciples of me, but disciples of the Father Yahweh, praise his name, and of disciples of the Messiah Yahweh Shah. And for y'all to learn so that you could teach others the same thing. You understand? If I'm not doing that, then what's the use? You understand? I'm not trying to raise up no church. The church is already there. It's the tribes of Israel. You understand? Praise the Most High Yah. So Psalm 147. Psalm 147. Psalm 147. I'm going to give you this one and one more. Well, no, I'm going to give you this one and I'm going to give you two New Testament ones for all the New Testament Christians. I'm going to give you two more, okay? All right, here we go. Psalm 147. I'm going to read Psalm 147, verse 2, and I'm going to go from verse 2, and I'm going to read verse 19 and 20, just for the sake of what we're doing here. Psalm 147, verse 2, 19. Well, let me read 1 and 2. Let me go verse 2, 19, and 20 for the sake of time. Okay. Psalm 147, verse 2, 19, and 20. Here we go. Yahweh doth build up Jerusalem. He gathered together the outcasts of Israel. Now watch very carefully. Watch very carefully. Psalm 147, verse 19 and 20. If anybody ever, doubts what you're telling them, watch this. He showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He hath not dealt so with any nation. As for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye Yahweh, or hallelujah. He's only revealed himself to Israel. He's chosen them above all the families of the earth. His prophets are only Israelites. So now, if somebody were to say to you, well, we have this Arab prophet and he wrote a book, you can know right now. No. Not either you're going to believe that or you're going to believe this. You can't believe both because he only showed himself to one people. He only has prophets from one nation. Y'all following me? So if you got some so-called Caucasian man, Joseph Smith, coming out from Utah talking about he a prophet, you can know right now. You don't have to read anything he wrote. You know he's a false prophet. Or if people are proclaiming a woman from Maine, a Caucasian woman, as a prophet, you can know right now. No. According to the Bible, it's only Israelite prophets because he's only shown himself to one people. Okay? Let's go New Testament, though. Let's get a couple of New Testament ones, okay? Let's get for the New Testament Christians. We want to make sure they understand, what the situation is. So let's start at Luke chapter 21 with the Messiah. Luke chapter 21. Now we could go on Messiah's quotes, for a minute now, right? But Messiah's and this another witness. So in this case, he's a witness. So we trying to get some witnesses. So far, let's see. Zechariah is a witness, right? Amos is a witness, right? David's a witness. So we got 3 witnesses, and we got more, but I'm just trying to limit it. So now Messiah is a witness. So here's Messiah, Luke chapter 21, verse 24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. Talking about the Israelites, tribe of Judah. southern kingdom. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles. Who trod down Jerusalem? The Romans did. And they shall rule until their times are fulfilled. Why? Because we just read he's going to reestablish his people, Israel. Fourth witness. Let's get another one. How about the Apostle Paul? Oh, they love the Apostle Paul because he's done away with the law, right? The Apostle Paul did all the way. He did away with the law. They love the Apostle Paul. Oh, man, we're all under grace now. There's no more law. Well, let's read their favorite prophet, okay? Romans. Let's go to Romans. Let's see. Romans chapter 11. Now, they don't want you to read that one. Romans chapter 11. You know they don't want you to read that one. But let's go Romans chapter 11, because that's telling the truth anyway. They all think telling the truth, but now you have it in the perspective of the Israelite. So here, Romans chapter 11, beginning at verse 1. Beginning at verse 1. Going down to verse 5. Romans 11, 1 to 5. Now we know about the grafted in stuff. We're not even going there. Here you go. I say then, hath Yah cast away his people? Here's a question. His people being, he said, who is he referring to? Israel. Have Yah cast away Israel? He's calling them his people. And he's going to show this to you in a couple of verses. He's showing them his people. Has he cast away his people? Which again says what? They're his what? Servants. Okay? We're going, Revelation itself going to give us the final witness. But okay, let's stop here. Let's continue. I say then, hath Yah cast away his people? Yah forbid. For I also am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. Yah hath not cast away his people which he foreknew. So no, he hasn't cast away his servants. Wot ye not that the scripture saith of Elijah, how he maketh intercession to Yah against Israel, saying, Master, they have killed thy prophets and digged down thy altars, and I am left alone, and they seek my life. But what said the answer of Yah unto him? I have reserved to myself. You think it's any coincidence? He said 7,000 who have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal. So even so then, at this present time, that's at the time he was writing in, of course now, at this present time, there's a remnant according to the election of grace. There you go with your grace. You got Israelites by grace. Wait a minute. Let's go back to Revelation now. So now we have established who the servants are that's going to get the book of Revelation. Okay? We have established that from the word itself. Old Testament and New Testament. Y'all got it? Okay. So now, one more. Revelation chapter 7. Y'all know we got to go there. Revelation chapter 7. Revelation 7, 1 through 4. Notice the word servants. Revelation 7, 1 through 4. By the way, Revelation 7, all the way till you get down the whole chapter, is the sixth seal. It starts in Revelation 6 and goes all the way down to Revelation 7 and ends in Revelation 8, verse 1. All of this is the sixth seal. Remember that. So let's look at that. Revelation 7, beginning at verse 1. After these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living Most High. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, watch, hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the tree, till we have sealed the servants. Till we have sealed the servants of our Most High in their foreheads. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. So now we have answered it definitively, have we not? Who are the servants to whom the book of Revelation is written? It is written to the Israelite people who are the remnant of his servants in these last days. Okay? Now, that understanding is important as we continue through the book of Revelation. It is extremely important because now you know who this is written to. You know who's going to be given the spirit of understanding and teach that to even the Gentiles who will be grafted into the Israelite nation. And the Gentiles, as they are grafted into the Israelite nation, guess what they're going to do? They're going to teach the Gentiles. That's what happened with Paul. That's what happened with Peter. He taught Cornelius, and they received the Spirit. Cornelius wasn't teaching no Hebrew. He was going to teach Gentiles. Y'all got me? So now we establish who the servants are. Now, the message, let's go back to Revelation 1, verse 1. The message. Let's read 1 and 2 now. You ready? Revelation 1, 1 and 2. We're going to talk about how we know the fourth church, the fourth seal, and the fourth trumpet is Rome. We're going to talk about that. Okay? All right. Here we go. First, Revelation chapter 1, verse 1 and 2. We got to establish this. Here we go. The revelation of the Messiah Yahushua, which Yah gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John. So obviously John is an Israelite. Even if you didn't know that before, you definitely know it now from all of the witnesses that we saw. So obviously John is an Israelite. Okay, he's not of the 144,000 because he's not at that time in that seal, and he's not at the return of the Messiah. We are, but he's definitely an Israelite. And what does John do? He bears record of the word of Yah and of the testimony of the Messiah and of all things which he saw. So the message comes from the Father to the Messiah. It's a revealing of something about the Messiah, of the Messiah himself. And it was sent by Messiah by an angel, the messenger, to an earthly servant who's going to bear witness of the message. Okay? Which is why you know the 144,000 are bearing witness of the message. Number one. Number two, understanding that this is something that has been hidden regarding the Messiah that's going to be revealed in the book of Revelation. Now, what is the biggest thing that's been hidden regarding the Messiah? What is the biggest mystery regarding the Messiah that everybody talks about and nobody knows? What is it? Come on, I'm waiting for y'all for this one. What is the biggest mystery regarding Messiah? And only his servants are going to receive the information. What is this? That's exactly right, Brother Mark. That's exactly right. When is Messiah returning? So you ask the Gentiles, and they always point to, well, it says no man knows the day and the hour, and they just leave it like that because they don't ever actually want him to come. Why? Because the Gentiles are running this earth. Of course, they don't want to return back because that's the end of their run. But he is showing us in this book when he's going to return. Okay, that's the big news of this book. He's going to show us his return. He's going to show us the events leading up to his return, which is why you have 7 churches, 7 seals, 7 trumpets. Now, remember, in fact, let's take a look. Now we're going to answer the question about Rome. Okay, now you understand. Now, let me give you one more thing, which I'm not going to go into great detail right now. Okay, but I'm going to tell you because we need to know this. Study it on your own. Part of the Israelite, very important part of the Israelite culture in the nation are the feasts. Right? I mean, you understand that, right? You may not if you didn't read, but you got to read through the books of Moses and you will see the very important part of the Israelite culture is the feast. Okay? There are 3 major feasts, not 7, not 10, 3. It repeatedly tells you that in the books of Moses. There are 3 feasts. They are the Passover, which is also known as the Feast of Unleavened Bread. It's the same thing. Many people try to separate them in ignorance, but no, it's the same thing. And then 50 days later is the feast of what they call weeks, otherwise known as Passover, the feast of weeks, otherwise known as Passover. The last feast is in the 7th month of the Hebrew year, which we just finished actually in October. This particular year, depending on the moon phases, but this particular year was in October. Really, most people celebrating it in September, but it's not really October. But anyway, the 7th month of the Hebrew year, Feast of Tabernacles, otherwise known as Feast of Harvest, otherwise known as Feast of Ingathering. All of that is the same feast, synonymous names for the same feast. It's 7th month, the 15th day of the month. Now, prior to the second feast and the third feast, there's something that happens in the middle. That's not a feast, but it happens in between the second feast and the third feast. We will, Sister Wade. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let you read Deuteronomy, Sister Wade, and let you answer that question. Read Deuteronomy. It will tell you. Read Deuteronomy. It will tell you, okay? Deuteronomy will tell you. Yeah. So now, in between the second feast and the third feast is the Day of Atonement. It starts with a trumpet sound. Trumpet blows on the first day of the 7th month. Trumpets blowing. People, ignorantly call it the Feast of Trumpets. It's not a feast. It's a holy convocation. It's a preparation. In the Bible, when you hear a trumpet, which is the sound, one of the sounds of Messiah's voice, it's a warning of something that's coming. So when you hear them blow the trumpet, they're being warned, they're being alerted to something. The Israelites used the trumpet to alert them an enemy was coming. The trumpet would blow to alert them when they were in the wilderness that it was time to move. The trumpet would blow when a prophet was speaking, and the trumpet would blow when enemies were approaching the gate. So the trumpet sound is a warning, an anticipation of something coming. In this case, the trumpet is giving them warning of the most important day of the year, the 10th day of the 7th month, the Day of Atonement. Again, the Ashkenazis falsely call it a new year. It's not the new year. It is a Day of Atonement. Now, the Day of Atonement, you can find the details of this, and I'm going to tell you where it is in Leviticus chapter 16, but Deuteronomy talks about it. Of course, Leviticus, Numbers, they all talk about it, but Deuteronomy talks about it, but in chapter 16, actually, of Deuteronomy, but Leviticus 16 goes into great detail about the Day of Atonement. Now, the Day of Atonement is the day, listen carefully, that all the sins of Israel are taken away. The whole nation's sins are removed. It's also the day that righteousness is placed upon them. It is also the day every 50th year of Jubilee. Same day. Y'all catching me? Okay, so you have that day represents multiple things. So it's the most important thing. It's 10th day of the 7th month. It's the putting away of all sin. That's why you had the trumpets, because they're the warning sound to let them know within 10 days, all sin is going to be removed. It's an important day, which means that the unrepentant sinner, their sin remains. That's why they get the trumpet sound. It's the most important day of the Hebrew year. So now they have an atonement and you have a scapegoat. And that's where all the sins are removed from the nation, the repentant people of the nation. This is not for all the nations. When you read Leviticus, you will see it's only for Israel because he's only shown himself to them. You say, well, what about the other nations? Do they get an atonement? Yes, but they become a law unto themselves, as Paul says, when they are taught by the messengers who are the Israelite messengers. So that's another thing. The strangers among the Israelites also take part in the Day of Atonement. So you who are grafted in, you take place. The Bible says, read Leviticus 16. The strangers that are among you also take place in the Day of Atonement because you're among the Israelite people. You're grafted in. You're adopted into the family. Okay? You're not the bloodline, but you're adopted into the family. So all repentant sinners among Israel, their sins are forgiven in the Day of Atonement and washed away. And in place of that, the righteousness is placed upon them. They are sealed in the righteousness. Every 50th year comes a jubilee where all debts are forgiven and all land returns to the original tribes. Okay, every 50th year, right? So that means that every century you have two of them. Does that make sense? Every 100 years, there's two jubilees. Every 100 years. See, it don't matter what calendar you follow. You have to just understand that. Every 100 years, every century, there's two jubilees. Okay, no matter what. So now, after that happens, then now the sins are forgiven. The nation is covered in righteousness. And on the 15th day, they party. There's a big party. And that's the Feast of Tabernacles, to commemorate the fact that they came through the wilderness, that they were strangers, and now they have their home and they're never having to leave again. That's the ingathering. That's the harvest. That's the Feast of Tabernacles. And they take palm branches and they make booths out of it in commemoration. That's why in Revelation chapter 7, you will notice Revelation chapter 7, and this is why we must understand the feast. It's very important. Revelation chapter 7. Notice what it says, Revelation 7. I'm going to begin at verse 9. Revelation 7, verse 9. Notice what it says. Watch carefully what you see in their hands. Revelation 7, verse 9. After this, I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and peoples and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, before the throne of Yah, Father, and before the Lamb, clothed in white robes. What's in their hands? Did you notice? What's in their hands? Notice what it says. Before the throne, before the Lamb, what's in their hands? It says palms in their hands. So you tell me, what are they getting ready to do right there? They are celebrating the Feast of Ingathering. What has been ingathered? Was it been crops? Was it been corn? What did they ingather? Us. We are the ingathered people. We are the harvest. He has gathered the sheep. And now the punishment is to the goats, the scapegoats. But he's gathered the sheep. Catching that? But there's one people among that numberless multitude that don't have palms in their hands. There's one group of people among them that's with them, and they don't have palms in their hands. Revelation chapter 14. Revelation chapter 14, beginning at verse 1. And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven, as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of great thunders. And I heard, listen, watch now, I heard the voice of harpers, harping with their harps. And they sung, as it were, a new song before the throne and before the four beasts and the elders. And no man could learn that song but the 144,000, which were redeemed from the earth. So everybody has palms in their hands except one, the 144,000. And notice what they sing. Revelation chapter 15. What do they sing with those harps that nobody else could sing? Revelation chapter 15. Beginning at verse 2 and 3. Watch closely. And I saw, as it were, a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that had gotten the victory over the beast, and over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, stand on the sea of glass, having the harps of Yah, harps. And they're singing a song that no man can sing. It's got a title. The song's got a title. What's the title of the song? Verse 3. And they sing the song of Moses, the servant of Yah, and the song of the Lamb. That's what it's called. The song of Moses and the Lamb. And only the 144,000 can sing it. Great and marvelous are thy works, Yahweh Al Shaddai. Just and true are thy ways, King of Saints. Okay, so now the servants are Israelites. The return of Messiah is going to be revealed to them. Okay, the whole book of Revelation is taking place with all of the information that have been told from the prophets. The Day of Atonement And the Feast of Tabernacles are the fulfilling here, because we know that Messiah fulfilled Passover. And when I say fulfilled, that doesn't mean it's nailed to the cross as some Christian. No, we're going to still keep those feasts, but it's fulfilled in Messiah in terms of what it meant. Each feast means something in the deliverance of Israel. Each feast, let me say that again. Each feast means something in the deliverance of Israel. Messiah represented the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. The Feast of Weeks was obvious. It's the early rain, right? Isn't that the day of Pentecost? You got a whole Pentecostal church built up off that, right? It's the early rain. Okay, so now Messiah, and then when you read Daniel chapter 8, you will see, because the Day of Atonement is also called this. It's called the cleansing of the sanctuary. Okay, when you look at Leviticus 16, you will see that. It says, it calls that day not only the Day of Atonement, but it calls it the cleansing of the sanctuary. I want to say that again, because that's very important for what we're about to read in Daniel chapter 8. So it tells you in Leviticus 16, it's an atonement for Israel called the Day of Atonement, but it's also to cleanse the sanctuary. It's a cleansing of the sanctuary. Okay, so those terms are synonymous with the 10th day of the 7th month, both of those terms. Okay, now why is that important? Let's look at Daniel chapter 8. Daniel chapter 8. I'm going to read from verse 13 and verse 14 of Daniel chapter 8, verse 13 and 14. Okay, ready? Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? How long are you going to allow the Gentiles to trod our sanctuary and all our people under their feet? Verse 14. Watch what it says. And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. See, they're talking about a day of atonement that comes after 2,300 evenings and mornings. If you look at in the Hebrew, it'll say evenings and mornings. And in fact, later on in this chapter, he references it, the angel, by saying evenings and mornings. That equals a day, which is prophetically 2,300 years. So, and then that's when he said at the end of the chapter, notice what he said, the angel told Daniel at the end of the chapter 8, verse 26 and 27, and the vision of the evening and the morning which was told is true. Wherefore shut thou up the vision, for it shall be for many days. And I, Daniel, fainted and was sick certain days. Afterward, I rose up and did the king's business, and I was astonished at the vision, but none understood it. So between the feast of Pentecost and the early rain and the actual Day of Atonement, there's going to be 2,300 years before the real final Day of Atonement would take place. Now, obviously, it wouldn't be on an earthly sanctuary because Jerusalem would be destroyed. And so the Bible is letting us know it's in the heavenly sanctuary, from which the earthly was just a copy. Everything Moses was told to make was a copy of something original made without human hands. Because Father said, I don't dwell in temples made with hands, which are figures of the true. Okay, so in the third heaven, there's a sanctuary where our high priest, Mashiach Yahushua, intercedes for Israel. And he's telling us here that there's over 2 millennium plus 3 centuries between when that Pentecost it took place and when the final sanctuary cleansing going to take place. Long time. Okay, y'all got that? Long time. All right, so now, that being the case, we right now in the 6th seal, Messiah is interceding for us. Again, what is the point? To take sin off of Israel and those that dwell among us. To put righteousness on us. so that we'll be prepared for the next stage, which is the Feast of Ingathering, which is the return of the Messiah. Y'all getting that now, right? The Feast of Ingathering represents the return of the Messiah. It's the ingathering of the Israelite people. And okay, let me give you some witness for that too. Revelation chapter 14. Revelation 14. Revelation chapter 14. Praise the Most High. Revelation 14. Let's look at the end part of Revelation 14, beginning at verse 14. Revelation 14, 14. Revelation 14, 14. Okay. And Sister Wade, I got your question. This is all leading up to it, believe it or not. Believe it or not, this is all leading up to it. All right. So, in fact, I'm going to call this, how do we know the fourth church, fourth seal, fourth trumpet is Rome? That's how we're going to call this, because that's what we talk about today. Okay. This is part one. We're going to have part one and part two. We preempting our normally scheduled program to bring you a special announcement. Revelation 14, 14. All right. And I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and upon the cloud one sat like unto the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. So what's the vision now? He sees a cloud, Son of Man, Yahushua, coming in the cloud, and he has a sickle in his hand. What is a sickle used for? It is used for harvest, reaping harvest. Y'all got that? Reaping wheat harvest. Okay, here we go. Verse 15. And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud, thrust in thy sickle and reap, for the time is come for thee to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. So wait, what was he reaping? The harvest is his servants. The harvest comes at the Feast of Tabernacles, the Feast of Tabernacles, also called the Feast of Ingathering, also called the Feast of Harvest. So you see, when is Messiah coming? When is his return? Feast of Tabernacles. So we know what time of the year he's coming. We don't know what year, right? But we know what time of year. He's coming in the 7th month of the Hebrew calendar. He's coming around the 15th day of the 7th month. Okay? But before he returns, there must be a final day of atonement. There must be. All Israel has to be sealed. What will be the sign of that final day of atonement? What will be the sign of that seal that we saw? The 144,000 needs to be sealed, right? The servants need to be sealed. What's the sign? It's called what? The latter rain. The latter rain. As the early rain was the sign of the sending of his disciples, called apostles, sent. The latter rain is the sign of the final seal of his servants, 144,000. So the day of atonement that's going to come, it's going to come one, and I'm telling y'all, watch 2027. Because when that comes, the rain going to fall on his servants and seal them. And they will have power to speak words that with power that have never been heard like that before. It's going to cause a stir. Just like the early rain caused the stir, as you saw. The latter rain going to be bigger. It's the latter rain, right before the final rain. The final harvest. So you can see here. Okay. So now we know. Y'all already in just these minutes, these hour that we've been here today, you now know when the Messiah is coming back in terms of what time of year he's coming back based on the feasts. You now know where we are now. We're between the harvest and the Pentecost because we're in the Day of Atonement. You understand that? That's right, Brother David. We're going to talk about that. But now we're answering the question, how do we know the 4th is Rome? How do we know that? How do we know the 4th is Rome, right? That's the question, right? Okay. We got this part so far. All right. Now, first off, let's go to Matthew and let's start answering the question. Now, just to let you know, we're going to end up with a part 2 today. I'm letting you know right now. So we're going to end up with a part 2 today. We're just starting here with part 1. So I needed all that background. You know how I do. I need to give you the background so that you understand when we go to the meat of the thing, how y'all can eat it, appreciate it, munch on it, enjoy it, right? So we need to understand the background first. That's what we did all of this for. Okay, so we know the book of Revelation was written for the Israelite people. We know that only the Israelite people are going to understand the message and be able to teach the message, that they're his servants. We know that the 144,000 are representative of those servants at the end of time, which is where we are right now. We understand that the Messiah is going to return in the Feast of Tabernacles, in the fall, in the autumn of any particular year, after the latter rain falls on his servants, who are going to use that power to give a final message to those that are in Laodicea. There you go. So now we got all that. We understand also, let me just tell you one more thing, that the whole book of Revelation takes place with the Messiah actually being in the sanctuary in heaven. He's instructing John from that position. Everything John is being shown, Messiah is showing him from his position as high priest. That's very important to understand. And if you don't understand that, that's why the Gentiles will never understand the book of Revelation, because the Day of Atonement was not given to them. You see what I'm saying? It was not given to them. It was not for them. Only Israelites are going to get this, because we will understand by the grace given to us of the Most High, by his foreknowledge, that we have received the Day of Atonement, that we have received the forgiveness of the sins of our nation through the Hebrew Messiah that is our high priest. Okay? And because of that, we can understand the book of Revelation. It starts there. That's why we needed this, to go through that background first. That's why now you'll see any church, I don't care what denomination it is, when they start telling you they're teaching you Revelation, you could already know it's going to be false. It's already going to be false, because he's not giving them anything. He's not giving them nothing. They're not his people. And to try to preempt his people, what would you think? If the Most High chose Israel as his chosen people, and you get any group of people that try to say, we're taking their place, what would you think? Are they calling Yah a liar? Aren't they? Are they saying, no, he's wrong? We're really his people? And what would you think he would think about that? I don't think he'd be very happy with that, when he has said who his chosen people are. Okay? So that's what I'm saying. We have to read our Bibles. Read the Bible. So it's yours. Israel is given to you. Read the Bible. Those strangers of you also that are among the Israelites, read your Bible. He's going to bless you. He's going to bless you above all people, because it's given for you. It's given for you. You are his chosen. And you have work to do as his chosen. And you have to be equipped with his word. Okay? Do that. And there's going to be people. You ain't got to go knocking on nobody's door. There's going to be people. That's exactly right. I can't say it any better than Don Hines just said it. It's our heritage. It's what we have inherited. And he has chosen us to give this message for the world, for all the Israelites scattered. That's why you say every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. It's because Israelites are scattered into every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. And whoever clings to the house of Judah and to the house of Israel among the Gentiles will receive the blessing as well. But it starts with us. That's why they say pray for the peace of Jerusalem. It ain't Ashkenazi United Nations sponsored Jerusalem. It's the third heaven. It's the one where our Messiah, the Hebrew line of the tribe of Judah, is interceding for his chosen people. The original ones, the ones in chains. Okay? Those. Praise the Most High. But in Matthew chapter 24, Messiah is talking again, just like in Luke 21, about the destruction of Jerusalem and the scattering of his chosen. And he gives a message, and he mentions Daniel. He mentions Daniel in Matthew chapter 24. And he says, I'm going to read verse 14 and 15. Matthew 24, 14 and 15. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached into all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. When ye therefore shall see, watch now, the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. So now he's telling you, as a sign of the destruction of Jerusalem was going to be something that Daniel the prophet wrote. So that gives you a hint. You want to see Daniel. Y'all got me? You want to see Daniel. Okay, so you got to go look at Daniel now. And as you open the doors of Daniel, you will see a whole world open up. And revelation will be revealed. Okay, from Daniel. Daniel reveals revelation. Here's a crazy, I'm going to say, it's like a riddle, but it's true, right? It's like a riddle. Watch this. Daniel reveals revelation, and revelation reveals Daniel. Isn't that wild? But it's true, though. Daniel reveals revelation, and revelation reveals Daniel. They reveal each other. Now, there are other prophets involved. You know, Ezekiel is involved. As you know, Isaiah is involved. Moses is involved. Zechariah is involved. Oh, all the prophets, pretty much, right? So they're all involved. But the main players here in terms of prophecy is Daniel and Revelation. So Daniel reveals revelation, and in turn, there's elements of revelation that reveal Daniel. If you understand and remember that, it will help you a lot in understanding the book of Revelation and prophecy in general. It will help you a lot. Okay? They reveal each other. It's ordained that way. And it's written in Daniel, but most people don't see it, but it's written in there. But they reveal each other. Okay? So now we know. Now I'm going to start this next part, and I'm not trying to really throw suspense here. I'm not really trying to play with your mind. Y'all know I'm not. It's just now it's an hour and 6 minutes. I don't want to lose y'all yet. So let me start the next part and get to the meat, Sister Wade, if you don't mind. Let's get to the meat of your question in the next section, because I really need to now focus on Daniel to get you to that fourth beast, that fourth church, that fourth seal, that fourth trumpet. Okay, I need to get you in Daniel. Okay, so I want to stop here, let y'all digest what we just went through. I'm gonna change the title of the video. All right, thank you. I appreciate that. So I'm going to come back after the break. So now it's 12:22. I'm going to come back in an hour, and then we're going to, after we come back, we're going to, like at 1:30, let's say 1:30. Yes, it's the desolation of Jerusalem. Well, it's in that sense the desolation of Jerusalem. But as you read Daniel, that's a good question. Brother Loma writes an excellent question. Azariah, is that the desolation of Jerusalem? Yes, but it's more, as you're going to see as we look at Daniel. You're going to see it's more. It's abomination that causes ruin. We'll talk about it. Let me not go too far into it now, but we'll talk about it when we come back. But we're going to come back and start again at 1:30. All right, 1:30 Eastern time. We're going to come back and start. We're going to start in Daniel, and we're going to go through Daniel and bring back to Revelation. Okay, so praise the Most High. Praise the Most High that the Spirit did what He did for us today in terms of causing y'all to ask questions and to say things that would cause me to say, "Oh, we need to preempt our regularly scheduled programming and go to Hosea." I'll go from Hosea to Revelation and Daniel. Okay, we'll do that. So by the grace of the Most High, we'll return at 1:30 and we'll continue this study. If you can come back, come back. If not, it's going to be recorded. So it'll be part 2 of what you'll see here for the title, which will be part 1. It'll be part 2 of this one. Okay, so we'll come back and we'll do that. Praise the Most High Yahweh. Again, please be safe out there. Please enjoy a rest today, a rest of your mind, your spirit, your body today, that the Most High will rejuvenate you with His Spirit on this Sabbath. And if we see you again, praise not. If not, it'll be recorded. You'll be able to see it then. All right. Shabbat Shalom, brethren.